worker in charge. For that purpose, you have to desist from creative work. And if you look at the work which was forbidden on Shabbat, they are all creative processes. First, all the activities required to produce food, plowing, sowing, grinding, baking, all this to prepare food for yourself. This is prepare food. Then comes to prepare clothing, and then other creative work. There are 39 activities, and 38 of them are all concerned with creative work. So the significance of this is made obvious by the halakha, which is the person who desecrates the Shabbat in order to save a life. He's not only permitted, he's commanded to desecrate the Shabbat to save a life. But if he desecrates the Shabbat on purpose, because he doesn't care about God's commandments, and he does it publicly, he's considered as if he is a heretic, as he denied the existence of God, and he's no longer considered as a Jew. If he does it in public. Now, how do we know what work is creative? So any creative work which was used to erect a sanctuary, that is called the major works, archetypes of work, avot melachot. Each one of them was necessary to put up the sanctuary. The putting up the sanctuary was considered the most important creative work. Why? Because the sanctuary was a model home. It has the table was there to teach us that you need material sustenance. Opposite it was the menorah, the light, the spiritual part. In front of it was the mizbeach. That's where we perform it symbolizes the work that was done. All this is to be the model home, where innermost in the inner sanctuary was the Torah, which is the inspirational aspect that gives meaning to the whole. So this putting up this home was considered the prototype of constructive work. And therefore all the efforts that were needed to put that up were included in the list of prohibited work. Others serve the same purpose, done in a different way, are called toladot, are also forbidden by the Torah. But the main ones were those 38 efforts, 39 efforts. You notice I say 38 and I say 39, because 38 of these labors are all constructive, as I said before. The 39 is to bring objects from the private domain into the public domain. There it's written in the Torah that Moshe told the people Taviru kol b'machaneh, when the information was passed on that enough material has been donated for the construction of the raw materials. It says you should give out a notice, they should no longer bring donations, and the donations are called melacha, which means work. And the people stopped bringing. So there, that is the source for the prohibition of taking objects from the private domain into the public domain, and from the public domain into the private domain.
How? That was not talking on Shabbos. How can you he just said don't bring. How is it interpreted that it has to do with Shabbos?
That is the Torah Shabbat Peh. The Torah, Rabbi Yochanan says in the Gemara, how do we know that you're not allowed to bring from the private domain to the public domain? Because it says, Lo yasu od melacha. But it's called melacha, and it said they should not bring it. So,
and that has nothing to do with Shabbos.
When melacha, the prohibition of melacha is written by Shabbat. Shabbat it says lo ta'asu.
Yeah, but this has to do with bringing to the...
Right, but it's called melacha. So Torah Shabbat teaches us that from this verse, because bringing is called melacha,
it's
not a real Gzera Shava, but that it's a hint in the Torah Shebichtav, and to the specifics on the Torah Shabbat Peh. So this is considered the 39th melacha. The question is much more profound. Why is bringing from the private domain into the public domain? You're picking up a ring from your home, and you bring it out into the public domain, you've done a melacha. What kind of constructive effort is there? So to answer to that, I've seen a beautiful explanation of Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch. He says that when God rested on the seventh day, he rested from nature. Because nature from then on runs as he said, as God set it up on the sixth day. But there was something else that is under God's control, and that is society. God rules not only nature, he also rules society. And how did he show, when did he do a creative act in society?
What do you mean by society? What does he rule society?
People. That means regulations that regulate the relationship between people.
That
includes government and police and private individuals. So he says, when God created the Jewish people, that was an act of creation in the social domain. And that is a very important part to know that that too is God's domain. And if you have to continue remembering that when you remember Shabbat. Shabbat is not only to remind us that God rules over nature, but it's also to remind us that God rules history, that he rules society. That is
Isn't it a prayer? A government or a person has the prayer to be good or to be bad, like a government.
That's right.
He can be good, he can be a dictator, he can do all kinds of bad things. That's up to the government. God not going to interfere and say, you cannot do that. He can, because that's the question of the prayer. So
that's right. The whole idea of the Shabbat is that we should choose on our own, using our bechira, to desist from activities, primarily creative activities, but also social activities that have the relationship between the individual and society, and that is to remind us that God is the master not only of nature, but also of history.